What's up, everyone? John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo here with a full review for you of the LG Thrill for AT&T Wireless. Let's go ahead and see if it's as exciting as the name implies. Alright, so this is a full review of the LG Thrill coming soon for AT&T Wireless. As I do with all of my phone reviews, let's go ahead and start by talking about the call quality, because doesn't make good phone calls, it's not going to be of much use to you. And phone calls on the LG Thrill were just about average with most AT&T phones. On my 20 call tests, I had one dropped call, but I did have a pretty strong signal strength wherever I went. I was blanketed in HSPA+. This is, of course, a 4G device, so it'll be able to pull down 14.4 megabits per second on the high end, at least as fast as that can possibly do. It was decent, call quality was average. People didn't hear any white noise or popping on their end. I didn't hear it on my end. Speakerphone was about what you'd expect for a phone nowadays. Nothing stuck out as awful here, but nothing jumped out as being outstanding. It was just about an average phone for call quality. So, it works. Alright, so let me go ahead and run through the specs, because there's a lot of stuff packed into this small package. First, 4.3 inch screen with the resolution of 480 by 800, a little lower resolution than some top-end super phones, but we're going to talk about that resolution in just a few minutes. It's got a 1500 milliamp hour battery living underneath its soft touch plastic back. That HSPA Plus connectivity, which AT&T is calling 4G, is in there. It also has on the back, in sort of a robot-looking face, I thought that looked like two eyes, is a camera. And of course, that is a stereoscopic 3D camera. But in addition to shooting 3D, it can shoot 1080p video. So that's 1920 by 1080 at 24 frames per second. Or if that's not your cup of tea, it can also shoot 720p at 30 frames per second. Kinda awesome. And the 3D that it shoots will be shot in 1280 by 720, which is pretty decent for stereoscopic 3D. 512 megabytes of RAM, 8 gigabytes internal. Android 2.2. They have said that Froyo will be coming. At least LG has said so. Hopefully, we're going to see Froyo. When LG demonstrated this device to me personally, Gingerbread rather was what they said was coming. It's coming. Will be coming soon. Device hasn't launched yet, so maybe by the time it hits AT&T, it'll have Gingerbread. But at least the review units that we have, this thing's packing some cold Froyo. It's got a dual-core Texas Instruments OMAP processor clocked in at 1 gigahertz on each core. So it's a pretty powerful phone, which would certainly beat the top end of most carriers' lineups. One of the great things about the LG Thrill, though, is its price. AT&T is going to sell it for $99. So for under $100, you're getting a pretty nice deal with a lot of stuff in it. Let's go ahead and talk about all of that stuff. Alright, first let's talk about what everybody's curious about, the 3D. This is a stereoscopic 3D. Essentially that means 3D without glasses. I always equate it to that old baseball card technology. If you ever saw the baseball cards, you move them around and you sort of saw the batter swing. It's very similar here, stereoscopic 3D. So unfortunately, you're not going to see 3D here. It's probably going to look a little blurry and out of focus to you. I have tried a few 3D devices, certainly the Evo 3D and the Nintendo 3DS. And I thought they were very gimmicky and gave me a headache after just a few minutes. But that might be my bad eyes, but certainly reports of that have been running rampant. This is probably the best implementation of stereoscopic 3D, though, that I've ever seen. That's due to that lower screen resolution. Remember, the resolution is 480 by 800, so you've got pixels are a little bit bigger, so the effect seems to be a little bit better here on the screen. So you got a ton of 3D-ish stuff you can do. So you got a 3D guide. I'll walk you through some of the 3D stuff, but you're not seeing 3D, so that's not overly exciting for you. I'll go ahead and jump back. There's a few unique things here. So you're going to have some 3D games and apps. It's going to come preloaded here with some 3D games. I'll go ahead and show what they are. Asphalt, Nova, Let's Golf, and Gulliver's Travels. They are games that are in 3D. Pretty standard games, though. 3D camera. We'll go ahead and talk about that in just a minute. 3D gallery. It'll show all the 3D pictures you took with the camera on the back. And YouTube 3D. This is actually a unique thing to LG. If you want to upload videos to YouTube 3D, you can do it directly from the phone. As with other 3D devices, you got to upload it to your computer. And then from your computer, you can upload it to YouTube 3D. You can do it directly here from the phone, and you can view, of course, YouTube 3D videos. So let me go ahead and check out that camera. Boom, camera. And there's a 3D button right there on top of the phone, which will activate that 3D camera as well. So we'll go ahead and let it do its 3D thing, and we'll move something in here to take a picture of. Here's a BlackBerry torch. You can't see it. I can. It looks like it's in 3D, but I pulled my cloth off to the side. That's no good. So it looks like it's 3D. You can go ahead and snap your picture. You can also shoot video. It does work pretty well. I was able to view 3D content for a bit longer than I could on other phones. I still had that headache, but again, I was able to look at it a little bit longer before I felt like I wanted to bash my head against the wall. 3D here is an addition to the package. It's certainly not the reason, at least in my opinion, to buy the phone. Sometimes it's fun to look at 3D content. Certainly wouldn't want to look at 3D pictures all the time, but at least you have the option to have 3D on here. Whether or not you choose to use it is your call. Alright, so this is running, again, Android 2.2 Froyo. It's got LG's 3D UI on it, which on the surface is very UI heavy, but below the surface, they left Android pretty much alone. So let me show you some of the stuff that it does. First, hooray, pull down, you can go ahead and adjust all that stuff right there. I love that. So if you go ahead, let's go to one of the home screens, we tap, let's go to blank home screen. So it arranged everything here in grid, so you can sort of see where the icons would go. Widgets, shortcuts, and folders, you can control how to create them right from here. So here's all the widgets. Some are LG specific, some are just Android widgets that we've seen. Shortcuts, folders, wallpapers. Say it with me, wallpapers. Go ahead and go back. So there's one of the neat additions here. If you go ahead and go to applications, sort of listed. Very similar to actually what we've seen with HTC Sense. If you want to minimize this, you can just do that, and you can jump into what you want, apps or downloads. Apps, there we go. Go ahead and exit out. There are a few other niceties, I suppose, in here. If you jump into the browser, for example, go ahead and rotate this. We'll talk about the browser, of course, in a minute. You've got your controls on the bottom that are sort of always there. Your back buttons, your forward buttons. Go ahead and open tabs or open new tabs, and then you've got your settings button right there. So that's sort of a quick overview of the LG 3D UI. It's there, and it works well. Alright, so now let's talk about speed. This is a dual-core phone, and if you're looking to buy a dual-core phone, chances are you are into speed, and you're into benchmarking, and you want to know what your phone can do. Well, the quadrant test that I ran, of course, on the shipping ROM, pre-modified, obviously, was a score of 2,460. So whether or not you use quadrant as the benchmark for processor or system prowess, it's up to you, but it's what I use in all of my videos. At least you can benchmark it against previously reviewed phones. So it's a pretty high score. It's not rocket high. Other dual-core phones certainly have scored higher. Assuming you want to go in and do some OS tweaking, let's say, I'm guessing you can get that score significantly higher. But if you don't want to go in and do your tweaking, how's the phone going to perform for you normally? Well, things are pretty fast. Applications open quickly. Let's go ahead and check out some of those applications. Google Books. Hey, look, Google Books opened. I didn't notice anything like blistering fast, but it was pretty quick. Browser, for example, scrolling, even with Flash enabled, you don't get any of that checkerboarding, which I really, really like. And you can see Flash is working. And not any checkerboarding while scrolling as fast as you can with Flash enabled is definitely a dual-core thing. Alright, so now that we're talking about browser, let's go ahead and talk a bit more about that. Pinch to zoom in here obviously works very well. It's pretty fluid, as you'd expect from a modern phone here. Text on the screen, it's crisp. It's not the best I've seen. It's not the worst. It's average. Pretty much like the rest of this phone, it's unremarkable, but it's not bad. So if you want to read websites like Techno Buffalo or whatever you want to check out, yeah, the screen's going to be okay for you. Pictures, again, as you can see, images here, look all right. The phone is, though, relatively quick. It did everything I needed without having to shut down programs in the background. 512 megabytes of RAM certainly did a nice job with that. And there's this whole thing here with dual channel and dual channel RAM. It works well as sort of the layman's explanation for it. You're going to have very good memory management here with the phone. Alright, so now that we've sort of talked about what the phone can do and all that stuff, how does it affect the battery? We are looking at a battery of just about 1,500 milliamp hours, which is going to live here in the back of this very thick phone. As expected, you're not going to get outstanding battery life, certainly with dual core and even using 3D lightly. Battery life is not going to be great. I was, however, able to get through a full day of use while pulling in email every 30 minutes from 2 Gmail accounts, about 2 hours of phone calls a day, and some pretty heavy web browsing. I was barely able to scoot in from about an 8 to midnight day with just about 10% battery left. So if you use it judiciously and you're more careful than I was about managing your applications, you probably will get through a full day. All this business, though, comes in a pretty stocky package here. 168 grams is by no means a supermodel phone, but it does do a lot of stuff. So let's do a quick tour of the device. We've got two doors here on the left, and I hate these doors. A lot of phone manufacturers do them. To try and charge the device, you gotta get your finger in there and prop this thing up. Oftentimes, they end up just pulling them off. So come here. I don't have non-existent fingernails, but they're not great. There we go. So if you want to charge it, you got to pull that back. Next to that door is an HDMI port, or HDMI out rather. So go ahead and pull that out. An HDMI cord is actually included in the box with this phone, so that's nice. So that's all you're gonna have on the left. You got microphones here on the bottom. Little lever supposed to pull off that soft touch back. Touring up again here on the right. Kind of hard to see, but you do have, hopefully you can see it right there, a volume rocker up and down. On the top in the upper right, that's where your power and lock button, 3.5mm headset jack is. There's that little robot face. Stereoscopic 3D cameras. Got a front-facing camera on the back, lower resolution, of course, letting you know it's stereoscopic 3D. Got some texture feel to this. It is soft touch. Feels pretty nice, and there is your speaker grill. So this has been a review of the LG Thrill. If this phone was $199 or $149 or $299, whatever it was, I'd say, well, it's okay. Maybe you want to see what else is going to come out. But this phone coming in at $99 out of the door makes it an extremely good value. You are getting a dual-core phone. You're getting 3D capabilities. You're not getting gingerbread, but that will come. You're getting all the latest and greatest niceties of the mobile world for a really reasonable price. So if you're watching your budget and you still want to have the latest out there, this is going to be a really solid choice for you. And I can definitely recommend it for that $99 price point. So it's going to get John Rettinger's 2 thumbs up. I have weird big thumbs. But it's going to get 2 thumbs up. So there you go. LG Thrill. I'm John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo, and I'll see you guys in the next video.